they're trying to say like, oh no, the Supreme Court decisions, didn't really have that much effect. This is the biggest change, is that there's this 2% increase. Well, it's not a 2% increase. It's like a 25% increase. Hello and welcome to episode 486 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Nathan Fox. With me is Ben Olson. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. If you want to be LSAT famous, you can share news and ask questions on our website, thinkinglsat.com. We have a free class coming up on Saturday, January 18th. Plenty of time to register for that. It's going to be Saturday brunch logical reasoning. Ben, you want to talk about that class at all? It looks like it's, this is Abby's class, covering 3 logical reasoning questions bright and early on a Saturday morning. Well, it depends where you are, I guess. It's noon for East Coasters, 9 o'clock for West Coasters.
I mean, it's an hour-long class going over 3 questions. I'm imagining he must dive deep into each question to help people understand how to understand.
Deeper you go, the more you get out of it. And when you start to really understand the game, you realize that it's just kind of the same shit over and over and over. I mean, is there an argument? What's wrong with the argument? You're already 85% of the way to the answer, or in many cases, 100% of the way to the answer.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a note yesterday on Slack from a tutoring session, or maybe it was from a class session, where one of the teachers was, or one of the students was like completely mind blown because they had predicted the answer after reading like a sentence and a half of the passage.
Yeah.
They already were like, wait, but this feels kind of funny. Like, that's really what yeah, that's the point. And so for people who slow way down, they start to see those little shortcut signs by the side of the road. And, the folks who do the opposite of that, which is very typical, right? Novices just want to fly through this test. And when you do that, when you just like, you're in such a damn hurry to read the next sentence that you haven't actually digested the sentence that you're currently reading, then you just miss all those little shortcuts that are all over the place. Hopefully people can check out Abby's free class on Saturday, January 18th. Start to get a little bit of that in their own LSAT lives. What is it? LSAT.link/free to sign up?
Yep, exactly.
Just need a Demon free account, which everybody should have a Demon free account anyway, because there's so many amazing resources there. Join 80,000 other people who have registered for Demon free accounts and check it out.
Nate, should we tell? So this is going to come out on the 23rd. Tomorrow, the 24th. That's the February LSAT registration deadline.
Oh, maybe we should talk about that. Pretty simple. How do people figure out whether they should register for the February LSAT or not?
Yeah, if your most recent practice tests have been in a score range that you're happy with, that you'd be happy with on the official test, then you should sign up for the February LSAT.
Yeah, this is an if and only if type of situation. If you're happy with your practice test scores, then there's no reason not to register. Mm-hmm. If you're not happy with your practice test scores, then you absolutely should not register.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very bright line here. Not all of life is that easy, is it, Ben? Yeah. Sometimes there's hard decisions. Sometimes there's things that you have to like think about for a while. On this one, it's just like, look, if it's December 23rd and I'm happy with my practice test scores, then I absolutely want a spot in the February LSAT, because let's get on with it. But if I'm not happy with my practice test scores, then there's just no point rushing into it. Why would I make it more stressful, put more pressure on myself, and end up, as so many people do, just showing up on test day wildly unprepared? Well, just don't do that. Just let your practice test scores be your guide. All right. Now we can get into the wild speculation about the news.
Yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
American Bar Association 509 reports for 2024 just came out. Our team is hard at work updating our scholarship estimator. That's lsatdemon.com/scholarships. Probably by the time you hear this, all of the 2024 ABA data will already be incorporated into the estimator. In fact, I would guarantee that. The reason why it's a big deal this year in particular is because we finally get to see enrollment for all of the law schools. I was on a flight yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to actually dig much into this. Did
Hmm.
you dig much into this information?
I read the New York Times article about Harvard Law's incoming class enrollment has dropped in half for Black students.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't see that before I got on the plane yesterday. That is shocking. The only thing I saw before I got on the plane yesterday was the piece from Above the Law.
Hey, producer Eric here. I think Nate's talking about the Reuters piece from Karen Sloan. But who knows? Maybe Above the Law reports on this by the time this podcast publishes.
Where it was kind of trying to it was sort of like, oh yeah, no, there hasn't been any changes, no major changes.
Hmm.
Um, it said, Asian first year students overall increased by just 2%. That's what it said in the Above the Law article.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the numbers and it improved it increased from 7.76% to 9.76%. So in Above
So
the Law,
proportionally, yeah.
they're trying to say like, oh no, the Supreme Court decisions, didn't really have that much effect. This is the biggest change, is that there's this 2% increase. Well, it's not a 2% increase. It's like a 25% increase.
Yeah.
Because for going from 7.75% to 9.75%, Asians first year law students, that's kind of a big deal.
That is. It's a big deal, but it's also interesting because they said that the metrics that the ABA is using to calculate these racial categories has changed. So in the very year that we actually need to make a comparison to the previous year, they decided to change how they calculate these numbers, which is accidental or strategic. I don't know. But apparently in the past, they did not include non-US residents in the racial categories. So if you were an international student, you were just in your own category by yourself.
That seems kind of sensible, honestly, to just have international students be international students.
So
but they decided not to do that anymore.
Yeah, so they decided not to do that. So they included international students into the racial categories. So of course, now you take all those international students and you ask them what their race is, and then you put them into a category. And some people speculate that that may account for some or all of the increase in the percentage of Asians who are now enrolled.
But it to me, it seems like doesn't it kind of just seem like they're sort of trying to defend law schools or defend legal education in a way that's like, oh no, don't worry about it. No, it's not. It's not. There never was a problem, and these new changes. It's not nothing. There's nothing really going on here. It's no big deal. But because, like, look, the lawsuits were specifically brought on behalf of Asian people who thought that they were being discriminated against, at least as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, what happened? Well, there's this huge drop in Black student enrollment at Harvard Law School and a pretty big increase in Asian enrollment. And that kind of seems like exactly what would have been expected to happen if you are no longer allowed to use race as this, because they were using it as like this last step, final sort of determinative factor. They could talk all they want about holistic admissions and all that, but I mean, they were like, they had the LOP list, and it was like, yeah, okay, at this last stage where we can only take half of these people, we have to keep all the people who are Black.
Mm-hmm.
And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, all I want is like the truth to come out. And it just kind of seems funny when I see the news take on it being sort of like protective in a way of like, oh yeah, no, it could just be because of these. Oh, it was only a 2% increase, says Above the Law.
Yeah.
Which is either bad math or it's kind of shilling on behalf of the law schools. And then the New York Times is like, well, I mean, yeah, there was this big decline for Black enrollment at Harvard Law and the increased evasions, but it could be because of the international. It's like they're sort of trying to muddy the waters or
Well,
insert
I
reasonable doubt.
I am somewhat sympathetic to that though, because apparently at Stanford, Black enrollment doubled. So, okay, so you have a drop at Harvard, you have an increase at Stanford. I think at other top tier programs, you have generally a drop. So it seems like at the the highest ranked schools, there's a decline. But
one thing to point out, while we're being math nerds, the sample at Stanford is way smaller than the sample at Harvard. Harvard's like 4 or 5 times as big as Stanford Law School. So that's one thing to consider, is that it's like, well, okay, this is a big drop at a big school and then a big increase at a very small school. That almost sounds like Stanford going out of their way to poach the top Black students from Harvard, because we're dealing with a pretty limited applicant pool every year, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, the numbers, the other problem here is that the numbers are small. So the small changes in these small groups of people can have a big percentage change.
Sure. So for example, it's a real small sample to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year there were 19 first-year Black students, and I'm sorry. Last year there were 43
at Harvard.
At Harvard, yeah. And then this year there was 19. Wow. So that's less than half.
Yeah.
But, at Stanford, I think the numbers are smaller, but we're dealing with teens. Another interesting thing is that later in this article, it mentioned that the total number of Black students enrolled in law school was up. So
the total number.
Yeah.
Which could also just be related to
the increase in applicants
in law school enrollment. Yeah.
So I don't know. It is. There are things changing, it seems like, but the numbers are a little hard to pin down, as is often the case. And then I guess the question too becomes, okay, what does it all mean? Okay, so numbers dropped. They aren't doing the LOP list, which seemed odd.
Odd.
Is this
illegal?
Well,
I mean, it is. It has been deemed to be illegal.
It was deemed illegal. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I don't know. I think there's this assumption that if the racial percentages in an institution match society at large, then it's doing things correctly. And yeah, that could be true, but there are so many other factors that go into what percentage of different races are pursuing law degrees, or and I don't know enough about this to really say a whole lot, except the percentage maybe should be higher or maybe it should be lower. I have no idea why we're in the situation that we're in, right? It's still like a confusing.
Well, the idea that it should match does seem problematic. I mean, so then are we going to go through every profession and just make sure that like the racial quotas have to match exactly in every profession? So, doctors also has to be like racially diverse and match the percentages in the population. So does garbage men, so does basketball players, so does badminton teams. I mean, like what? Why does everything have to be so matching? I mean, I get it that this is, higher education and it's got this aura
and it's the law
around it. And okay, well, anyway. We, as promised, we are wildly speculating on these numbers, and they just came out last night, so I haven't really had time to dig into it very much. We would love to hear what you have to say about it, though, dear listener. And if you go to thinkinglsat.com, or if you find us on the socials, just tell us we're full of shit. We obviously are. We know we're full of shit. So tell us why, and we will correct ourselves in an upcoming episode, or we'll shed more light on this in an upcoming episode of the show.
Sure.
This next item is also related to the new ABA disclosure documents. We have an email here from Emma. Subject is new ABA report statement reveals how schools are hiding full tuition scholarships? ? That sounds juicy. Would schools want to hide the fact that they give full tuition scholarships?
Certainly, they would want to hide that from their full tuition paying students.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to try to shed light on this issue that law schools are practicing rampant price discrimination. That's what economists would call it. And so Emma suggests, hey, are schools actually trying to wise up here a little bit and hide the price discrimination that they're actually doing?
She writes, I apologize if you guys have already figured this out, but I wanted to draw your attention to this in case you have not. The new ABA 509 reports are out, and there is a new statement under the grants and scholarships section. Wow, okay. It says, the term full tuition scholarships refers to scholarships that cover tuition and mandatory fees. The term more than full tuition refers to scholarships that cover more than tuition and mandatory fees. By this definition of full tuition, schools could give scholarships to cover the full cost of tuition, excluding fees, and place them in the half to full bucket. I think a clear example of this happening is at the University of Minnesota. Minnesota's 509 has only 7 students in the full tuition bucket. Given that their new LSAT medians are 162, 169, and 170, in other words, their 25th, 50th, and 57th percentiles, the fact that I, with a 170, received a full tuition scholarship offer this cycle, I feel like this must be what Minnesota is doing.
We've speculated on this a bit in the past. I have wondered, not that we, Ben, are actually making any impact, right? We've been doing this for more than a decade now, never stop shouting into the void about scholarships. So I don't want to have ego to think that the schools could actually be reacting to us, kicking up some dust. But I can certainly see how, it's a bad look. As you say, Ben, when students at Minnesota are there paying, for the I guess we should look at Minnesota. We probably only right now have last year's data in the scholarship estimator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we could look at the new 509, but let's take a look at what they were doing last year. Minnesota, by the way, ranked 16th in the country. Oh, this doesn't look new, actually. Wait, unless the team has already updated the 509s, which is possible. We do have an amazing, lightning fast team at LSAT DMin. So I'm looking at the roll call here, and I see no stipends at Minnesota. I see only 13 full tuition scholarships. So 2% of the class with a full tuition scholarship. But then, 53% of the class getting more than half, 33% getting less than half, and only 12% getting no discount whatsoever. So to finish the point that I was trying to make, they probably, think about how it feels to be one of those people in red who are getting no discount. Like you're one of the 80 people at the school, a school of, 600, whatever, more than that actually. And you're one of only 80 people there who's actually paying full price. Well, especially you hate looking at the full tuition bucket going, hey, there's all these people here who are paying zero. And apparently, according to the definition now that is actually published on the 509, which that didn't even used to be a thing, right?
No.
So now they've got it's nice. I'm glad. I mean, more definitions are good. Good job, ABA.
Yeah.
Although we might want to redefine it for you if you wanted to make it have a little bit more teeth. As Emma's email suggests, this now makes it awful easy for a school to give a full tuition scholarship, but not cover some fees.
Yeah, it's a disconnect between what they have to report and what they say to the student when they offer the scholarship.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They offered Emma a full tuition scholarship. So is Emma being reported on next year's 509 as a full tuition scholarship? It sounds like she's probably not. If her scholarship doesn't cover the fees, Minnesota's going to say, oh, well, then that's not a full tuition scholarship. And I'm not saying that it's anything nefarious on the part of Minnesota. I was talking about this too yesterday on Slack.
Fees, let's just stop for a second, because fees are,
they should be
inherently flawed, right? Like we're trying to buy a car right now and you have to pay a dealer's fee. So then every price of the car you look at, you're like, well, really, it's that plus this dealer's fee.
Welcome to the United States. I mean, welcome to just the world we live in, right? That's there's junk fees everywhere. And I don't know, maybe Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, or who knows, maybe somebody's going to get aggravated about that and do something about junk fees. But that's just how things work.
I mean, not everything's like that. We don't have a fee. We don't even charge taxes.
Maybe we should. I can see how the definitions should be changed to make it clearer. And I can see how a rational actor, if you're Minnesota and you're a rational actor, you want to tell Emma, we're giving you a full ride. But you would love to then be able to turn around on your 509 report, because, that goes out to, like, I imagine the state legislature of Minnesota.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And it goes out to all Minnesota taxpayers probably. And it goes, the Minnesota law students can see it. And so if they can then report Emma as, oh, no, she's not, she's paying.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a very highly qualified applicant, and we were able to secure
more than half
significant scholarship funding for her.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. We rarely give full tuition scholarship. You can see on our 509, we only gave 7 full tuition scholarships last year. But meanwhile, the $56,100 tuition, at least that was last year, is fully covered on Emma's deal. And there's a couple $1,000s in fees that she's going to have to pay, but they're not going to report her as a full tuition scholarship. I'm not mad about individual actors playing the game as currently designed, right? I want our students to take advantage of this broken system. I want our students to go get themselves a full ride, because full rides are on offer. And when schools play these kinds of games, or when schools, give tons of full ride scholarships to try to attract the best applicants to try to boost their rankings, what else should they do if they want to be good at their jobs? Like, that's how the system works right now. So that's what they should do. But the thing that I'm mad about is, where is the American Bar Association? Where is the U.S. Department of Education? I feel like it has to come from one of those two entities, that they have to step in and say, look, this system isn't fair. It's just not fair that you're going to charge the best qualified people 0 and you're going to charge the least qualified people double. It's not fair that poorer, blacker, browner people are going to pay more and have worse outcomes when they graduate from law school. That doesn't seem fair. I mean, I don't think anyone who wanted to design the system would design it that way on purpose. That surely can't be what we wanted as a society, but that's what we have. And so I don't know, is there a solution? Is there a way out of this conundrum?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Like, could you ban scholarships, or could you do something along those lines?
Right. Why can't the U.S. Department of Education step in and say, hey, look, we've removed funding before, like Charlotte Law School no longer exists. And that's because we looked at the outcomes for the graduates and we said, no, we're not going to guarantee those loans anymore. The second the U.S. Department of Education stopped guaranteeing those loans, Charlotte went out of business. Boom. See ya. Well, then why can't they look at schools that are playing these scholars? Why can't they just look at the system overall and say, hey, we need to rationalize this game? This is not fair. This is leading to unjust outcomes overall. And, like I'm generally an advocate of the free market in most cases, but here it seems like some regulation is merited, especially when it's government money that props the whole thing up in the first place. Why can't they just come in and say, hey, you have to charge everybody at least 50% of the nominal tuition?
Yeah, or something like the lowest paying student,
Yeah.
Or the highest paying student can't be twice that the lowest paying student. That would just force the schools to collapse. There would still be a disparity, but it would be a lot less. The other option is to limit the amount of federal loans that they approve for individual students.
Just cap the loan. Yeah.
Yeah. Just okay. Now you can't get that much money from the government. Okay. Well, we got to figure out how to work within that framework, which is.
Yeah. The problem with that is that then it's gonna. I mean, I can see there's going to be people advocating for the least fortunate, saying, hey, if you cap those funds, then these people are not going to be able to go to law school at all.
That's true. Yeah.
And that might be the case if you do the other system as well. I don't know. I mean, it might just be that if you came in and you said, hey, look, we know that your bar passage rate is only 70%. You have to stop overcharging the bottom of your class and letting the top of your class go for free. Because when you do that, what you're doing is you're letting the people who are actually going to have good outcomes get a free legal education, and the people who are going to have bad outcomes, you're charging them double. And that's not a fair system. And so, yeah, it does seem like they could come in and, as you propose, Ben, something like, hey, just, like and everybody has to pay their fair share sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like not allowed to give full tuition scholarships. Everybody has to pay something.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who pays the most, can't pay more than twice the person who pays the least. Now, if you did that, so schools would no longer be able to compete for the top applicants by just dumping money on them, right? It would be system wide. So nobody would be able to play these games anymore.
Well,
so then what would happen?
They would still play it somewhat, right? Because that's interesting. They would have to lower their highest tuition.
Well, alternatively, you just say there's going to be you can set one price for your school. You have to charge everybody the same price. I mean, that fits our system, like our notions of justice, right? Like we're humans, we're evolved for fairness.
Yeah.
And so like, if you ask, everybody would say, yeah, that's a good plan. Like everybody, that just seems like it makes sense, Yeah. Go ask your mom, hey, does it make sense that everybody who goes to law school pays a different price? Or do you think everybody who goes to law school should pay the same price? It's like, why would anyone think otherwise? Yeah. It just should be one price.
Yeah.
And if they did
the same thing in theory,
tuitions would be cut in half instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's what's going on, is that they're charging some people double and they're charging some people zero. So if you came in and you said, hey, no, there's no such thing as scholarships anymore. Everybody who goes to law school has to pay the same price. If you did that, then the tuitions, it would equalize, where people would be paying a still exorbitant, but not outrageously unfair tuition.
Well, it seems like you'd want to do, well, maybe the market would just solve it, but it seems like you'd also want to reduce the amount of loans available to loan out, just because that pushes up the price.
Well, and that's a separate issue too, which is it's the third party payer conundrum, right? Where it's just fake money to law students. They just sign and they're just going. And then 4 years later, they start getting the bills like, whoa, oh.
Yeah. That's what this amount of money actually feels like. Yeah.
And that has led to, law school tuitions or just higher education tuitions across the board. What, doubling the rate of inflation?
Yeah.
Because of the free money aspect. And so I agree with you but that to me seems like it's a separate issue. And it does seem like something where if there was some badass at the Department of Education, it just seems like they could come in and go, hey,
no more of this. Yeah.
No more of these shenanigans. Like it's just clearly not fair and not how can that possibly be? It's it's like that system is endorsed tacitly by the way they give out the money. The fact that they continue to give money to schools that do this.
Yeah, they're saying
how's that
okay.
not discriminatory?
Yeah. Well, what's weird is we were just talking about these percentages of Black students at Harvard Law or Stanford or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are changes, but we're talking about it's almost like a distraction.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the schools, they can get up there and they can talk about what side of that issue they want to be on, but it's ignoring this underlying current of just utter inequality.
Yeah, well, it's this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, let's argue about the percentage of different racial categories at our school.
Yeah, while we continue to siphon money,
via
these government loan programs, let's just keep that gravy train rolling. Let's fight about these small, minor issues so that we can keep the big scam running full steam.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks, Emma, for writing in.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah. Eric says another notable addition to the 509s is a paragraph on page 1 under the LSAT and GPA numbers, explaining that only some law schools have obtained a variance from ABA Standard 503, allowing them to use and report JD Next scores. JD Next is an alternative law school admission test that was recently acquired by Aspen Publishing, a publisher of law textbooks and study aids. A page on Aspen Publishing's website lists the law schools that have been granted variances from Standard 503. There are currently 59 schools on the list. However, at a pre-law conference earlier this year, Eric heard an admissions dean from one of the law schools on the list state that they had not knowingly requested the variance and had no plans to accept JD Next. I mean, like small startup endeavors trying to act like they have more sales than they actually have.
Yeah.
We've seen that in various contexts in the past. The University of Arizona, which developed JD Next, reports a total of 9 JD Next enrollees in its first-year class of 102 students. So they made the test, and they're apparently using it for less than 10% of their school. Eric says, I didn't check the 509s for every school on the list, but of the next 10 schools alphabetically that were granted the variance in 2023, only 2 of them reported any JD Next enrollees. 1 student out of 273 at California Western and 1 student out of 272 at Charleston. The highest ranked school with a variance, which is Georgetown, reported 0 JD Next enrollees.
Yeah, I would imagine that if I was Georgetown and I was looking at applicants applying to my school and someone applied with a JD Next score versus an LSAT, I would just wonder if they're serious about going to law school right now.
Yeah, and we know what the LSAT, like we've got decades and decades of LSAT like history, right? They know, I mean, think about it, Ben. We know what high LSAT people are capable of. Like, because we hire high LSAT people, right? We hire our students and our listeners, and we have learned over the years that one number tells a lot about people's ability to read, ability to write, use basic common sense logic, and work hard. And maybe JD Next does as well, but it's just like, well, there's this new entrant. Why would we? It's just why are we going to switch off of something that we know works and that the vast majority of people are taking? Thank you, Eric, for that research. What's the deal with Texas A&M School of Law?
I don't know. I'm excited to find out. I think Eric will have done a lot of research here for us. Oh, wow. He's even got graphics. Okay, good.
This is awesome. This suggestion came from LSAT Demon student Caleb, who just recorded his LSAT success story episode with Eric. I don't have an episode number here, but just recorded. So check out LSAT Demon Daily, our other podcast, if you want to see Eric's interview with Caleb. Caleb, by the way, went from a 143 to a 168. 25-point improvement.
Yeah.
Anyway, Caleb wants to know what's the deal with Texas A&M School of Law. I don't know anything about this school. Eric mentioned it yesterday in our staff meeting, talking about how it's one of these schools that has shot up in the rankings recently.
Mm-hmm.
You want to read some of this?
Sure. Texas A&M School of Law was founded in 1989 as Texas Wesleyan University School of Law, part of the separate private Methodist University in Fort Worth. Okay. Texas A&M acquired the law school in 2013 for $73 million. Wow. I had never even thought about law schools or universities buying law schools, but of course it makes sense. They're just businesses.
Yeah.
But okay, there's an example of one such purchase. The law school remains in Fort Worth. The main Texas A&M University campus is in College Station, apparently. Texas A&M is building a Fort Worth campus that will include a new building for the law school, which is scheduled to open in 2026. Following the 2013 acquisition, some graduates of Texas Wesleyan University School of Law petitioned to have their diplomas reissued with the new, more prestigious name. The school declined.
Why would we do that? Why would we do any favors to people who graduated in the past? You guys are supposed to be giving us money. You're supposed to be donating money to us. We don't do things for you after you're done paying tuition. Let's be clear. Okay.
509.
Yeah, I think it's time to dig into the 509. Looking at the tuition roll call, and I still think we're looking at last year's data. It looks like stipends for 2%, full tuition for 19%, more than half scholarships for 50%. Jesus. So add all that up, you got 71% of the class paying less than half.
Okay.
So who's keeping the lights on at Texas A&M? Well, you got 102 students, 22% of the class, who are paying something more than half, but not full. And then you've got 32 students, 7% of the class, who are paying full. So yeah, 29% of the class who are paying 50% or more of the nominal $49,000 tuition.
By the way, I'm liking Texas A&M's its tuition is too high. Like all law schools, it's too high.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that at least last year it was $49,000 flat.
No fees.
And no fees. Yeah. Well, like it's a joke when someone comes to you and says, well, our school is $48,950. Like, really? So it's $49,000. Like we're dealing with such a big number here.
Yeah. All schools except for Texas A&M do this. Not all schools, but it's very few students or very few schools that don't tack on a bunch of fees so that they can say, oh no, our tuition it's still below $50,000. And then they tack on $5,000 in fees, which are mandatory. Okay. So apparently that's not happening at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see on this 509 that jumps out? Is this the new one? Yeah, this is the new one. 50th percentile LSAT 168, 50th percentile UGPA 3.97. That's a 2-point increase, Ben, in LSAT. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
How selective is this school actually? Well, 4,500 completed applications. They admitted 13.5% of those, so 614. That sounds pretty tough to get into, Only 13% of applicants get approved. But then of the 614 offers of admission that were made, only 120 of those people actually enrolled.
Mm-hmm.
So that's only a little less than 20% uh, like back range or rate. We need a name for that, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, what's the, I mean, because it's an 80% rejection rate. So they reject 86% of all applicants. But then of the people that they admit, 80% of the people they admit reject them back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game that we're playing here. It's a negotiation, right?
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, God, numbers like that, I think, it can maybe shed some light on how important it is that you apply broadly, because that's why these numbers are the way they are, is because the savvy applicants are applying not to one school or 3 schools. The savvy applicants are applying to 10 schools or 20 schools, and they're having negotiations with, not that they're sitting down and arguing about the price, but they, just the fact that you even apply and then maybe get an offer. This is the beginnings of a negotiation. And boy, you're talking about $50,000 a year. So of course it's worth that effort to apply broadly.
Yeah,
Wow, they
absolutely.
the new 509, it does have this big block of text on it.
Yeah, trying to explain why it's possible for this school, Texas A&M, to report JD Next, which, by the way, involves a sum total of 1 student.
I know. And it's on the first page of the report. You know what's not on the first page of the report? You know what's
Tuition?
also not on the, well, tuition is on the second page of the report. But you know what's also not on the second page of the report or the first page of the report? The fucking
Scholarships?
grants and scholarships table,
Yeah.
which, like that should be called actual price paid. And instead of talking about grants and scholarships, it should be like tuition transparency,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like actual price of the damn school.
Yeah.
And, they continue to or this might even be the template, like you're supposed to do it in this format. But the schools love that they can report the grants and scholarships as far down as possible on the report.
And in this convoluted way, right? You have to do the math backwards. You have to say, okay, what was the cost of tuition? If they
Right.
got a 75th percentile grant amount, which in this case is $33,000, what does that actually mean that they paid? I mean, it's just burying information.
It is burying the most important information on the report.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the most important information on the report, and it's on the bottom of the damn report. It's they bury it on, well, here it's page 3 of 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's really, really important consumer protection information. What's the purpose of this document? The purpose of this document is so that students can know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
And, like they've got all this bullshit up above. Like what there's information on the first page, Ben.
Hmm.
Number of course titles beyond the first year curriculum that were offered last year. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. 156?
Wow.
Wow. Number of seminars, number of co-curricular offerings, number of seats available in simulation courses. It's like they're letting schools talk about the features and benefits of the, like, oh, look at all these bells and whistles that you get
Yeah.
at our school.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but what I want to know is, what price am I going to have to pay to go to this school? Like, I want a JD so I can practice law. What's it going to cost me? And they have a nominal tuition that almost nobody actually pays. You don't get to find out the actual price until you apply. You have to write essays about why you want to go to the school.
Money. You have to pay money to figure out the price.
You have to pay a lot of money because you have to take the LSAT.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay for the LSAT. You have to pay for the application. You have to pay for the report fee from the credential assembly. You have to pay for the credential assembly service. Then you have to pay for the report fee that the credential assembly service sends out to the school, right? So it's just fees on top of fees on top of fees to even apply Then they get back to you and say, oh, we would love to admit you. Yeah, okay. What's the price going to be though? Don't worry about that.
That's another committee is reviewing that, and we'll get back to you.
And then they later, sometimes months later, and probably they're already telling you about deposit deadlines and that sort of thing. Like, oh, do you want your seat? You better write us a check. You better confirm that you really want the, $750 to lock in your spot. But what's the price going to be? How much is it going to actually cost me? And you won't know until they send you another letter. Now, some schools give scholarship offers when they offer admission. But at other schools, it'll be months that while you wait to hear what your scholarship is going to be, which they call it a scholarship. And what it is it's a discount. And even that is like still kind of euphemistic, right? Because the reality is that at this school, again, I mean, I know I'm yelling about this and it's completely ineffectual. Nothing's ever going to change, but I need to sleep at night. So in order for me to sleep at night, I'm going to keep yelling that there are 6% of the students at Texas A&M University School of Law, according to their 2024 American Bar Association 509 report, 6% of the students at this school pay full price. So stop calling it scholarships and change this system so that the pricing becomes more transparent, so that applicants know what they are trying. Like, oh, but no, let me line up and worship you to try to get admitted to your temple of glorious legal knowledge. And you don't even know what it's going to cost you to go there. Think about that. That's outrageous. What can you name one other thing that works this way?
Just undergrad. It's the same.
Education only, right?
Yeah.
I mean, buying cars, kind of.
Yeah, but it's still a front and center conversation, right? Like, what's the price going to be?
Yeah, at least buying cars, you don't have to apply. Like, will you sell me that used Ford Escort, please? No, instead there's the numbers are there in the windshield. You could see how much it's going to cost you. Now, of course, that's not the real price. And of course, they're going to try to tack on a bunch of junk fees and bullshit on top of that. And you're going to have a big negotiation and it's going to be the worst day of your life. But you know that going in when you're buying a car. And this is it's just such, and I'm not mad about Texas A&M University School of Law in particular, but this is emblematic of a very broken law school pricing system.
You know how it's very broken. And we were talking about solutions earlier. Here's one. You make your median price the stated price. And then you have, if you want to charge for the people you charge over that, you call it an admissions fee.
Yeah. Why doesn't this, so in this, this is a consumer protection disclosure document, right? Maybe somebody at the American Bar Association will hear this. That would be fantastic. It's like, see that table that says grants and scholarships? Move it to the top and require them to publish a line that says actual price paid. Just median price paid. Because why am I subtracting? Ben, the tuition isn't even in this table, right? No, only grants and scholarships are in the table. So they've got the tuition is on the previous page. Okay, wait. So now what's that tuition? Let me see. For resident, it's $32,634. For non-resident, it's $48,682. Now, let me think about what I'm going to actually pay. Okay, so I got to go down to the next page to the grants and scholarships table. Then I got to look at the 25th percent, 50th percent, 75th percentile grants for full-time and part-time. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of data there. But what percentage of applicants are going to do even close to the type of analysis that would be required to try to figure out what kind of a price you would actually pay?
Very small. I mean, what percentage of people even come to this document, right?
Yeah, like nobody, nothing. Yeah, right. Right. Man, but at least, you'd make it easier for people like us to talk about it. But of course, the law schools would resist this.
To your point about people listening in the ABA.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're just running into the problem where the regulated are the ones regulating.
Regulatory capture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're like, the people who make these rules are sitting there laughing, going like, yeah, you're right. You got us. But the fox is guarding the hen house.
Yeah.
So,
just last year, I was working at the University of Minnesota, and
yeah. And yeah, who knows? Like, still getting consulting fees. Or it could be one of these things like how people go in and out of Washington.
Yeah, they're going to come back to a job that pays well later.
Yeah. Yeah. Work at the regulatory agency for a while, then go back into the private sector, then go back into the regulatory agency because of the expertise that they developed in the private sector. And, everybody just keeps getting paid. I mean, it is a huge, huge industry. It's a huge business. There's millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's possible that the game has already been lost by the regulators being captured. That's what tends to happen.
Yeah.
But boy, it would be nice if they would just report the actual prices paid instead of playing these games of, no, the tuition is over there. That's the tuition. Yeah, the tuition is $49,000. That's the tuition. And then the reality is, look at grants and scholarships. We're able to find funding for the most students are able to get scholarships. Oh, you mean you're discounting the tuition? Yikes. What's the deal with Texas A&M School of Law?
Well, let's take a look at this chart, right, that Eric provided. This is from LSD.law, where they take user data and just plot out exactly what LSAT and GPA people had who were accepted and who were denied and who were waitlisted.
Yeah, I'm seeing some sharp lines there. All you got to do is just look at the green. The green is the admits.
Yep.
And when you look at the green, you see a sharp vertical line.
That's
right at 168.
Oh, 168? Oh, I thought it's 166. No, what am I doing? Yeah, you're right. 168. Okay.
Yeah, it's this. So Eric says the LSD.law admissions graph for 2023-2024 clearly shows the decision to shoot for a 168 median, 2 points above their previous median of 166, shown as the dotted line on the graph below. Texas A&M has been rising rapidly in the rankings. In 2016, it was ranked 149th. It's now tied for 26th.
Holy cow.
According to Wikipedia, between 1998 and 2020, the school experienced the largest increase of any law school due to, I guess, its academic reputation score rising from 1.5 to 2.6 out of 5. That score is based on a survey of law school faculties. Why would its academic reputation score go up?
Because its ranking, which went up, which would then...
That's true. It is circular. Why did its ranking go up? Well, because they started admitting higher LSAT.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how this game is played. Like, I was reading a story recently about a law school admissions consultant who also does consulting for law schools.
Yeah.
And the advice was basically, you want to raise your ranking, well, then you increase your LSAT median. And GPA, if you can. Notice that there's also a sharp horizontal line here, right? You could cut yourself on the angles on this LSD.law admissions graph. They are intensely interested in increasing their median LSAT. They are intensely interested in increasing their median GPA.
Yeah.
And so you've got these sharp, just a right angle up there.
It's good news for splitters, right? Because if you have a 168, you can see the GPA doesn't seem to matter that much. You have people who have a 4, of course, but it goes all the way down to someone who has below a 3.
Yeah.
And of course, not as many near the bottom,
No.
but boy, the difference between a 4 and a 3.5 seems trivial.
If you've got the 168 or 169.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can also get in with lower LSATs as long as you've got that 4.0.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's also people dipping down. I mean, there's green dots here that are in the low 150s.
Yeah.
But only for people who have above their median LSAT or above their median GPA.
Yeah, it's almost like if you aren't above the median for either one, you're right below the median for GPA, you're right below the median for LSAT, you're out of luck. You need one of those numbers.
Yes.
Even if the other one is total shit.
That's right. And the other one can be total shit. That's why there's these bright lines.
Yeah.
But these stark lines, if you're applying here with a 166 and a 3.85, sorry.
Yeah.
Nope. I'd rather you had a 3.0 and a 170. Or I'd rather you had a 4.0 and a 155.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a 168, exactly. Right. It doesn't even really make a difference whether you're a 168 or a 180. We don't care.
Yeah.
Whether you're a 4.0 or a 4.3, we don't care. But we do care. The second you're below on GPA, you have to be above on LSAT. The second you're below on LSAT, you have to be above on GPA. Even then, you might not for sure get in. If you're above on both, you're in. It looks like are there any who are above on both who got waitlisted or denied? Maybe one.
I see one. No, but that's below on one of them. So I see one denial.
Right. I see that.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Red flag.
Sometimes people write terrible personal statements.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, look really immature on their personal statement. And I could see how schools would look at that and just go, this doesn't look like somebody who's going to be successful here. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. I don't care how good their numbers are. It looks problematic. Or could be something in a letter of recommendation where somebody had a error in judgment on who they asked to write the letter. Like there are crazy people out there, and sometimes crazy people can get high LSAT, high GPA. But then you read those letters of recommendation and it's like, I had one of the worst experiences I've ever had with this person. I can't believe they're asking me to write a letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So again, they went from 149th to 26th.
This is how they're doing it. This is their strategy. Yeah.
Well,
they're pulling up their medians. Yeah.
It's an obvious strategy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, WashU in St. Louis has been doing this for years. It's an established, obvious practice. What would you do, Ben? I mean, God, Ben, you'd be an amazing, if some law school wanted to pay you $10 million a year to come increase the prestige, the ranking of their school, you could do it. You'd do an awesome job of it.
It would involve these numbers, and it would also make your job as an admissions officer easier.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's just clear no's right here. It's like, no. Yes, you are a possibility.
Yeah. Get as many applicants as possible. Waitlist every 167. Waitlist every 3.9. Whatever.
Yep.
Admit everybody who's higher than that on both. Give big scholarships to those people. Other people who are below, especially if they're below on both. But if you're below on one, you're probably going to be paying a lot of money to go here. If you're above on both, we're going to pay you. It's unfair. I don't think you'd be able to sleep at night doing it. But, it'd be easy. It would just not be
If
hard
that's the
to help
directive.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the directive is raise our prestige so that we get more money, so that we increase our law school ranking, so that
Yeah.
we can raise our tuition, so that we can get more applicants, it'd be easy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just it'd be easy. Would you call it a holistic? Would you call it a holistic application process?
It's definitely not holistic.
Listener, I assure you that Ben would call it holistic. Would it actually be holistic? No, it would not.
No, yeah, you'd have to keep, yes, of course. Well, it's funny too, now that we're talking about it, this is all just very easily calculatable, right? You can just look at their numbers, their two numbers, and you would figure out how much money you have available, or money, how many discounts you can give, and you would just allocate them, and it would just be an algorithm in a computer. So what's really happening here is they're getting an applicant, I suspect. They have, from the get-go, their LSAT and their GPA, so they are able to identify how much they're willing to pay for that through their algorithm. And then the game just becomes, how far away from that discount can we get with each applicant? And that would also simply be based on other things in their application. How many other schools have you applied to? How quickly do you open the emails from us?
Yeah. I'm sure there are some schools, and Texas A&M looks like one of them, that have very savvy operations.
Yeah. They probably have a report, like what's the spread between what we would have been willing to give them for a scholarship and what we were able to get them to agree to.
Yeah. Yeah. I continue to think that some muckraking journalist out there could potentially file some freedom of information reports and get internal workings from these law schools.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would just blow up the notion of holistic admissions and all that. It would just be like that, to see what they're actually doing, the way that the sausage is actually made, is going to just be very mercenary. Mm-hmm. Do you have high LSAT? Do you have high GPA? Did your personal statements scare us? Are your letters of recommendation reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
Also, by the way, do you come from a rich family that's likely to build us a library?
Mm-hmm.
Because those are going to be the exceptions. And it would be really amazing to see what the inner workings would look like. But is it holistic? Sure, nominally it's holistic. But these graphs, this graph right here is, I feel like that's dispositive. It's like, you look at that graph and you go, oh, so sharp line on their GPA median and sharp line on their LSAT median. Okay, well, you can say holistic as much as you want, but those numbers show what's really important to you. Keep reading. Eric did a ton of great research here. Wow, we got lots more to talk about with Texas A&M School of Law.
We do. Let's read this bit about their tuition and scholarships. It says, and this is coming from the school itself, Texas A&M states, in 2022 and 2023, 100% of the incoming class received merit scholarships, and all, that's also 100%, out-of-state students received non-resident tuition waivers.
That doesn't seem to square with the 509.
Yeah, the 509 says that some people paid full, right?
Well, the 509 says 94% of the students received grants. That's not 100%.
Oh,
that's 94%.
No. The incoming class.
That's and so that can change. Although the school does not award scholarships that may be reduced or eliminated. So I guess maybe there's just it's first year only scholarships.
Yeah.
We'll give you $7,500 off your first year.
Or I was wondering if this is like a change, like in time we'll see 100% for
maybe. Yeah, could be.
Okay, so basically in the last 2 years, at least the incoming class did not pay No one paid full price. No non-resident paid full non-resident tuition, and no incoming student who was a resident paid full tuition.
I would love to know what Texans think about all out-of-state students received non-resident tuition waivers.
Yeah. Okay,
What's the point of having resident tuition and non-resident tuition if you're going to then give all out-of-state students a non-resident tuition waiver?
Yep.
What's the point of that?
Eric defines what a non-resident tuition waiver is.
Says non-residents who are awarded Texas A&M Law merit-based scholarships, so that's for JDs or for on-campus LLMs, may also receive a waiver that exempts them from paying non-resident tuition and related fees. Yeah. Just everybody pays resident tuition. So what's the point of having resident and non-resident tuition? I mean, that's a temporary program. They did it for 22 and 23. And it could have been only for the first year or whatever. Who knows what they're, they might be give you the waiver because then you actually get, I think that's actually pretty common that they give the waiver for first year because then you're actually residents for your second or third year. So they don't have to give you a waiver anymore.
Yeah. But
still, why even have two different scholarship or two different prices if you're going to charge everybody the lower price? That's kind of funky. Eric apparently received an unsolicited text message from Texas A&M in October. Eric is high LSAT and is applying this cycle. He got this text message. You want to read it?
Hi, Eric. This is Jeff Green, admissions director at Texas A&M Law, ranked 26th in the nation. Based on your LSAC profile, you are a competitive applicant for admission, and we would love to receive your application. Apply by December 1st with the following code to pay for your CAS fee.
Wow. Eric has also heard of the law school offering to cover the cost of applicants' school visits, which is another thing that you might do, Ben, if you were in charge of raising the rank of, like let's say UC Hastings Law decides to hire you, UC Law San Francisco. They've been falling in the rankings. They decide to hire you as a consultant to raise the prestige of their school. You might be doing shit like this to try to bump their, get more qualified applicants. Notice, God, how do you feel about that, Ben? This is Jeff Green, admissions director at Texas A&M Law, ranked 26th in the nation.
It's aggressive. Well, I guess what distracted me most is the text seems oddly not formatted well. Capitalizing nation, dashes without periods. I don't know. It doesn't come across as very professional.
Also, it doesn't seem like he needed to capitalize admissions director.
Yeah.
We call this Trump case.
Trump case.
Unnecessarily highlight when you unnecessarily capitalize things. That's Trump case. Yeah. Boy, just unsolicited. Eric getting a text message saying, "Hey, we'd love for you to." And not only are they obviously waiving an application fee, but they're offering unsolicited to waive that LSAC fee, the Credential Assembly Service fee.
Yeah. So this is maybe to increase, or I don't know if it's increase or decrease, but make their yield better. Just fishing for applicants.
Well, more applicants is nothing but a win, right? I mean, they want as many applications as they can possibly get.
Yeah.
And they want high LSAT people. So they see Eric's LSAT on record and they say, dude, you should apply because we'll end up giving you a full ride to come here. And so they're backing up the Brinks truck outside Eric's house, and he didn't even know the school existed until he gets the unsolicited text message. Employment outcomes?
Sure.
This is another ABA disclosure document. Of 162 graduates, 140 of them are employed in, this is 2023 graduates, 140 of them are employed in bar passage required jobs. 20 of them are employed in a JD Advantage job, whatever that means. 2 of them have continued in graduate studies. None of them are employed in law school or university-funded jobs, according to this report. This report looks suspiciously clean to me, though.
40, 20. Yeah.
It's just not messy enough
Yeah.
for me to really believe it. I don't know. That looks a little shady. Where are people going to work? Well, big law placement? Not really.
No. Only 15. Yeah.
15 out of 160. So less than 10% big law placement. This school has climbed a lot in the rankings. But have they climbed so much that you're going to then waltz into one of those $200,000 a year jobs? Absolutely not. There's another 8 people who are in federal clerkships. So you're looking at 15 plus 8 is 23 out of 160. That's still less than 15% of the graduates in 2023 that are going into big law or big law league jobs. So, 140 people, by the way, are employed in Texas, 3 in Colorado, 3 in Virginia. Looks like, you want to go to work in small and medium firms in the state of Texas, if you can go for the right price. Seems like the school will get you your JD. Texas A&M's website includes the claim below. Eric can't figure out where the number 2 comes from or what the national, quote, gold standard is. Maybe listeners can help us out. Again, it's thinkinglsat.com if you want to share some intelligence about Texas A&M School of Law. But it says number 2, national gold standard for employment outcomes.
I like how gold standard's in quotes.
It is. It's in quotes. Yep. Gold number 2. They're number 2, national gold standard for employment outcomes. I mean, it looks like their graduates have jobs, but those aren't the types of jobs that most people go to law school thinking they're, this isn't the type of lawyers that you see a lot on TV. These are small firm lawyers making small firm salaries. Texas A&M also boasts that it's the number 5 best value law school, according to Pre-Law magazine, which, according to Eric, sometimes capitalizes the P and sometimes doesn't.
What the hell?
Here's Pre-Law. Wait, capitalizes the P, or I wonder if Eric meant the L? Because I could see how they would sometimes capitalize the L.
Oh yeah, you failed to capitalize the first letter of the word? That's weird.
Huh. Pre-Law's list of the top 20 best value law schools. Number 1, University of Georgia, BYU, Alabama, Nebraska, Texas A&M. Okay, I have no idea how much weight to give Pre-Law magazine rankings.
By the way, it is the P. Eric was right. I clicked on their link. Sometimes they lowercase the P.
But not the L?
But not the L.
What? Okay. So let's see. The methodology for making these rankings, Eric says, is interesting. A law school's in-state tuition, with no mention of scholarships, makes up 60% of their cost grade. Average debt per student makes up the other 40% of the cost grade, which honestly, average debt per student could be 100% of the cost grade. Although, one way to get around that is to just admit only rich kids who are going to just pay cash and not have debt. But that, I don't know, that seems pretty rare. I think most people borrow money to go to school. That is hilariously bad analysis, though, on the part of Pre-Law magazine. If they're going to just look at the in-state tuition and just call that 60% of how much the school costs, or that's their measure, and without recognizing that
the discounts,
the school themselves say in 2022 and 2023, 100% of the incoming class received merit scholarships. So Pre-Law magazine talking about the value of a school without reference to the fact that nobody pays full price seems,
maybe that's what they're trying to do with the debt, right? They're saying, okay, well, whatever if your cost comes down, or if your cost is high, but if your debt is low, then maybe your cost is better.
60% of their ranking, though, is just based on a completely fictional measure. Why? I mean, actual price paid. Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's impossible to tell what the actual price paid was.
Yeah.
Because it's not on the 509 reports. The ABA doesn't require schools to report actual price paid.
Wow, Eric really kept digging here.
He went in. Aside to the aside, Pre-Law Magazine, along with National Jurist, are affiliated with Crittenden Research, which publishes newsletters on real estate financing as well as Golf Incorporated. On their homepage, Crittenden Research writes, "We believe in the power of knowledge. We believe that when people are given greater light and knowledge, they make better decisions. Decisions that help them run a better business, lead a better life, and help those around them. We believe in the goodness of humanity, and it's our mission to enlighten, empower, and inspire people to lead better lives and make decisions that improve the lives of others."
Okay.
That's nice platitudes, but I mean, I'm not sure you're shedding any light at all if you're ranking the school's value based on its nominal tuition, while ignoring the fact that nobody pays the fictional nominal tuition. I mean, maybe they just need to go back to the drawing board on that. But I think what you're doing is you're creating far too many reports to sell instead of actually doing good analysis and only selling good analysis. That's my opinion. Last one. Email here from Quinn. Thank you, Eric, by the way. If you would like to know what's the deal with any particular law school, just tell us. thinkinglsat.com, or find us at LSAT Demon on all the socials. We're going to keep doing these. We enjoy them a lot. And our team tells us, everybody who works at LSAT Demon loves these "what's the deal with" features. So we're going to keep doing it. Quinn writes an email. Subject is temptation to not read all of the answer choices.
Okay. Hi, Ben and Nathan. I have found that there are times when I am very tempted to not read all the answers after I find the answer that perfectly matches my prediction or perfectly expresses my understanding of the passage. I ultimately force myself to read all the answers. I'm wondering if you think it's important to always read all the answers, or is there a certain level to reach when you are justified in just finding the right one and moving on?
If that level exists, I have not yet achieved that level. And I scored a 179 in 2007. And I have been writing and podcasting and teaching the LSAT since then. And in class the other night, it could have been an embarrassing moment, but it wasn't embarrassing at all. It was one of our classes where we invite the world to attend. So there was like 300 people in the class.
Yeah.
All of our free subscribers. And you can watch the video. If you've got an LSAT Demon free account, you can go back and watch the video. It was last week sometime. I'm teaching this class with 300 people in the room. Do a logical reasoning question. Love answer choice A. Feels like it exactly matched my prediction. Read B, hate it. Read C, hate it. Read D, hate it. Read E. E also exactly matches my prediction.
Yeah.
Reread A, realize that it did not exactly match my prediction. I misread it.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I thought it was. It looked really good superficially, but it was conclusively wrong. And I would have missed the question. That would have been embarrassing. But it wasn't embarrassing at all for me to say, I love A, I'm going to click A, but I'm going to read B, C, D, E just to be sure. And I get to E and I go, whoa, wait a second. It can't be the same answer twice. It can't be saying literally the same thing. I'm not going to just guess from here, by the way. It's not going to just be like, well, I don't know, one of these. Instead, I reread A and I go, oh my God, I think I was going to basically confuse sufficient for necessary or confuse cause for effect or something. I had just made one of those like reversal errors in the way that I had read A. And if I hadn't taken the 15 seconds that's required to read the remaining answer choices, I would have missed that question. So 15 more seconds invested, and the question pays off 1 point instead of 0 points. I could have spent 1 minute and 45 seconds on the question and gotten 0 points, or I could spend 2 minutes on the question and get 1 point.
Yeah.
The latter is far better than the former. So Quinn, if I'm going to read all 5 answers, and if Ben's going to read all 5 answers, then you should be reading all 5 answers always. Anything more you want to say about that?
Yeah, the fact that you're tempted by this, Quinn, suggests that you're worshiping the god of speed rather than accuracy.
Yeah, you need to stay focused on just get it right, get paid. This is lawyer shit. And that means you're going to need to just tick off all 5 answers. It's not like you're going to try to force a square peg into a round hole. You're not going to be reading each answer hoping that it's correct or trying to interpret it in such a way that it could be conceivably correct. If you like A, the answer is probably A, but you've got to at least take a look at B, C, D, E and make sure that they're off base, because it happens to me all the time. Ben, I'm sure it happens to you as well. You read an answer, you think it's good. You read a later answer, you go, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you've got to eliminate one of the answers. I was going to say more often than not, you were wrong about the first one. Maybe it's about a 50-50.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is, but it forces you to just dig a little deeper, look for that knot that you missed or whatever.
Yeah. I want to say more often than not, I was probably wrong about the first one, because, if I had read the first one and I liked it, then I'm going to be even more critical of the remaining answers. And so if I get to a remaining answer and I can't eliminate it, it's like, oh shit, uh-oh. Like I did.
Yeah.
And it's just highly likely at that point that I had misread the earlier answer that I thought I liked. Word of the week from test 6, passage 2. The presence of women physicians in Canton mission hospitals led many Chinese women to avail themselves of Western medicine who might otherwise have failed to do so. The underlined word here is avail. Do you know what avail means here in context?
It feels like what they're saying is, let's see, the presence of women physicians in these hospitals led many Chinese women, the sense I have is to like take advantage of or to use or to use Western medicine, something like that.
Yeah, I'm reminded here of Allah's reading comprehension trick, which is to just put something, literally the word something, in that spot. And here I think you would replace the whole phrase avail themselves or avail themselves of, and you would just replace that with something. So if you didn't know what's it mean to avail myself of something? Well, the presence of women physicians in Canton mission hospitals led many Chinese women to something Western medicine who might otherwise have failed to do so. So the presence of women physicians in their hospitals is causing them to what? Western medicine who might otherwise have failed to do that thing? And what are you predicting again?
Use or take advantage of.
Sure. Use or take advantage of. Merriam-Webster says, to be of use or advantage.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, to take advantage of is what that means. Cool. You can be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us on our website, thinkinglsat.com, or on the socials at LSATdemon. If you have questions about the LSAT Demon, you can email help@lsatdemon.com. Check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 486 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.